Oxygen is one of the most essential requirements of life, without which organisms on Earth would not survive. It is mainly required for breathing, combustion, supporting aquatic life, and decomposition of organic waste. This allows humans and other organisms to perform their daily tasks. As we all know, the air is a mixture of gases. The air in the atmosphere is composed of different gases, namely nitrogen, oxygen, argon, and other trace gases. According to the Earth's history, oxygen gas was first introduced by cyanobacteria through the process of photosynthesis. Earlier, around 4.6 billion years ago, there was no life on planet Earth because the atmosphere was devoid of oxygen. Later, there was a gradual increase in the oxygen level, and by the Carboniferous period, 299 million years ago, oxygen reached the levels that were similar to today's estimates. Come and join us as we explore more about oxygen, its uses, production, and how it is recycled in a cyclic pattern.
The oxygen cycle, along with the carbon cycle and nitrogen cycle, plays an essential role in the existence of life on the Earth. The oxygen cycle is a biological process that helps in maintaining the oxygen level by moving through three main spheres of the Earth, which are the atmosphere, the lithosphere, and the biosphere. This biogeochemical cycle explains the movement of oxygen gas within the atmosphere, the ecosystem, the biosphere, and the lithosphere. The oxygen cycle is interconnected with the carbon cycle. The atmosphere is the first level of gases present above the Earth's surface. The sum of Earth's ecosystem makes a biosphere. The lithosphere is a solid outer section along with the Earth's crust and its largest reservoir of oxygen.
The oxygen cycle first stage is called atmospheric because it is the cycle most important reservoir, but it actually refers to the hydrosphere, geosphere, and cryosphere. Before diving in, know that oxygen is found in one of its geological reservoirs, but not yet flowing through living organisms. It's the atmospheric phase. As we will see, photosynthesis is the main source of oxygen to the atmosphere, but there are others. That oxygen enters the atmosphere as H2O when ocean water evaporates, CO2 when animals breathe or burn fossil fuels, and ozone when solar radiation stimulates photolysis in the upper atmosphere. But is oxygen in the atmosphere? The answer is no. As stated previously, oxygen is also part of the water in the ocean, which covers 71% of the Earth's surface. Also, the ice masses are part of the cryosphere. It is also in the geosphere because oxygen is an important element in the Earth's crust. However, the most important molecules in the cycle are molecular oxygen and carbon dioxide. We currently have oxygen in the atmosphere. Only 21% of oxygen is molecular, with the rest being ozone, water vapor, and CO2. Now, we're interested in carbon dioxide, which makes up about 0.07% atmospheric gases. And it is this carbon dioxide that allows us to enter the second stage of the cycle, which is closely related to photosynthetic organism. In other words, we have already passed from the atmospheric reservoir to living beings. Why is carbon dioxide so important? Because plants, algae, and cyanobacteria need inorganic matter to synthesize organic matter in addition to sunlight as an energy source. And the organic matter is carbon dioxide. By breaking water molecules and capturing the carbon present in CO2, free oxygen remains as a waste product, passing into the atmosphere to directly enter the cycle third and penultimate stage.
Heterotrophic beings can breathe thanks to the oxygen released by plants, algae, and cyanobacteria. And as stated previously, we cannot synthesize organic matter from inorganic matter. But we do the opposite. We are now in the breathing phase. Respiration is a metabolic process where oxygen is consumed to act as an oxidizing agent, a molecule that traps electrons in biochemical reactions. It is sufficient to know that at this stage, the oxygen produced by photosynthetic organisms is used by living organisms to carry out metabolic pathways that allowed energy generation. In the photosynthetic stage, oxygen is consumed and carbon dioxide and water are released as waste products. They were consumed by photosynthetics. Just consider what we do. We breathe in oxygen and expel CO2. So it will become a physical CO2. It will return to the atmosphere, thus entering the fourth and final stage of the oxygen cycle. Lastly, in the return phase, the carbon dioxide expelled into the atmosphere as waste from respiration by aerobic organisms returns to the atmosphere. In this way, photosynthetic beings regain their inorganic carbon source, so they will re-enter the photosynthetic phase, which in turn will return oxygen to the atmosphere. These phases are obviously not separate. All of them are happening simultaneously on Earth. Of these four stages, the delicate balance between the oxygen that is consumed and that which is generated is born. Thanks to the oxygen cycle, life on Earth is possible.
The four main processes that use atmospheric oxygen are breathing, decomposition, combustion, and resting. Let's learn about each of them. Breathing is defined as a physical process in which all living species, including plants, animals, and humans, intake oxygen from the outer environment and exhale carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. When an organism dies, decomposition takes place. It is the most natural and important process in the oxygen cycle. The organic matter, along with carbon, oxygen, water, and other components, decays into the earth and the organic matter, along with the carbon, oxygen, water, and other components, is returned to the soil and air. Invertebrates such as fungi, bacteria, and insects carry out this process, which is collectively referred to as decomposition. The entire procedure necessitates the use of oxygen and produces carbon dioxide. The third important process is combustion. It is when any organic material such as fossil fuels, polymers, or wood is burned in the presence of oxygen and release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. The fourth and last important process is called resting. Resting is a process that necessitates the presence of oxygen. The creation of oxides is referred to as oxidation. When materials like iron or alloys are exposed to moisture and oxygen in an extended period of time, they rust and new oxide compounds are generated as a result of the oxygen's interaction with the metal.
Plants is the leading creators of oxygen in the process of photosynthesis. So, photosynthesis is a biological process by which all green plants synthesize their food in the presence of sunlight. During the photosynthesis, plants use sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to create energy, and oxygen gas is liberated as a byproduct of this process. So, sunlight also produces oxygen. Some oxygen gas is produced when the sunlight reacts with water vapor in the atmosphere.
First, phytoplankton is one of the most significant producers of oxygen, followed by terrestrial plants and trees. Second, oxygen is also produced when the sunlight reacts with water vapor present in the atmosphere. And lastly, a large amount of oxygen is stored in the Earth's crust in the form of oxides, which cannot be used for the respiration process as it is available in the combined state.
Respected classmates, humans, like many other organisms, rely on the oxygen in the air to survive. Numerous procedures that we do in a variety of businesses are oxygen dependent. In a nutshell, oxygen is required for survival. I'd like to take this opportunity to educate you about our natural world. We must ensure that the nature provides us with an ample supply of oxygen, eliminate tree cuttings and forest clearing. This is our challenge, to take responsibility in all areas to allow the world to breathe naturally. We must also take care of our globe so that we, people, may breathe as well. I hope that you gain so much lessons in our topic that you will carry for the rest of your life to have and be a better place to live in.